Good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon to all of you. Shri Rohit Chaudhary, President, NSUI, office bearers of the NSUI, delegates to this NSUI convention, friends. Thank you for inviting me to speak at this convention. I've been asked to speak on inflation and corruption, and we have about 35 or 40 minutes to discuss the subject. So if all of you agree, I'll speak for about 20 or 25 minutes, leaving about 15 minutes for questions and answers. Now, I was rather surprised that I should be asked to speak on both inflation and corruption. Frankly, there is no connection between inflation and corruption. There are countries which have very low inflation, but still very high on corruption. Take, for example, what was reported about 10 days ago in the European Union, where all countries are advanced countries, where inflation is extremely low, say about 1% or sometimes even negative inflation. Businessmen reported that every year they spend about $160 billion trying to find their way through the bureaucracy and through the government. $160 billion is a very large amount of money. But I think we must first understand that these are two separate issues, and therefore I'll address them separately. Let's first take inflation. It's now widely accepted that inflation is a function of demand. If demand exceeds supply, there will be inflation. Anyone who's born in a village, who knows how the village economy works, will know that if the supply of tomatoes or potatoes or brinjal to the market in a village is affected on 1 or 2 days, but people still want to buy tomatoes or potatoes or brinjal, in a day or two the shopkeeper will put up his price, because he knows that the demand is high, the supply is low, this is the best time to increase the price. What works at that level is the same principle that works at the national level. If demand exceeds supply, there will be inflation. Therefore, the only way to control inflation, rather one of two ways to control inflation, is to ensure that there are adequate supplies. Or, the other way to control inflation is to restrain demand. Either you increase supplies or you reduce demand. That is the only way inflation will come under control. Now, as far as increasing supplies is concerned, it can't be done overnight. For example, we have taken nearly 10 to 12 years to increase the production of wheat and paddy to a point where India today is the largest exporter of rice, and India today is one of the world's largest exporters of wheat. We are an exporter of onions. We are an exporter of sugar. We are an exporter of many other items. But 20 years ago, we were importing these items. We were importing sugar. We imported wheat. We imported rice under PL 480. aid from the United States. So to increase supplies will take time, especially of agricultural products. Even manufactured products, to increase supplies means you will have to have more investment, increase capacity in factories, increase production, so that more goods come into the market. So increasing supplies cannot be done by putting a switch. Increasing supplies requires investment. It will take some time, medium term to long term. Now what about demand? Now demand is a function of the people's purchasing power. If people have less money, they can buy few things. There won't be any demand. If people have more money, they will buy more things. There will be demand. I'm sure your grandfather has told you that when he was young, gold was available at 100 rupees a sovereign. True. Gold was available at 100 rupees a sovereign. Why? Nobody bought gold. Nobody had the money to buy gold. Very few people had incomes. The bulk of India was poor. Over 80-85% of the people were at subsistence level. There was no demand for gold. There was no demand for gold, and therefore gold prices were low. Today, even the poorest families somehow find the money to buy at least a few grams of gold at the time of marriage or at the time of festivals. I know when I was growing up, say about 20 or 30 years ago, a lot of people in very poor villages did not eat rice every day in South India. They ate what we call coarse cereals, millets, corn. They did not eat rice every day because rice was considered expensive, unaffordable. I'm sure that was a position in North India too. A lot of families could not afford to buy wheat or wheat products. But today, there's hardly anyone in the country, there are still very poor people, there's hardly anyone in the country who does not eat wheat or wheat products or does not eat rice every day. For example, when I was growing up, when we went to a temple, on either side of the road to the temple or on either side of the hillock where the deity was, you will have a row of very poor people with a begging bowl. And I remember my mother used to give me some coins, and you would drop what then was called 1 anna or 2 annas or 10 paise or 25 paise in each bowl. There was so much poverty. Today, in the same temple in my constituency, as I walk up the road or I walk up the hillock, there's not a single beggar sitting on either side with a bowl asking for alms. So there is more money in the hands of people. How is there more money in the hands of people? Because there's more production, there are more jobs, there are more incomes, people have more money. What adds to demand is government expenditure. When government spends money, that money goes into the hands of people as income. It goes to the hands of the carpenter, goes to the hands of the mason, goes to the hands of the electrician, goes to the hands of the plumber, goes to the hands of the construction worker. So these are the people who get jobs and there is income. So when government spends 1,000 crore on a project, say in a cluster of 10 villages, suppose a 6-lane highway is being laid over 50 kilometers and government is spending money, you will find in all that area around which the road is being built, there is more money in circulation and more people have jobs and there is more income. When a factory comes up, say a steel plant comes up, a power plant comes up, what happens? People start coming to the factory, buses run, lorries run, they bring goods, they take away goods, then a tea shop comes up, then a hotel comes up, then a barber saloon comes up, then a kirana shop comes up. That again creates jobs. There are more people with income. If 1,000 people are employed in a factory and the average wage is about 6,000 or 7,000 rupees, every month 1,000 into 5,000 rupees is available in that locality and money gets circulated. So government expenditure adds to demand and demand gives rise to inflation, which is why all economists are agreed that we must keep the fiscal deficit under control. What is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is money which government does not have. Government borrows and spends. When government spends the money it has, there is a fair balance between income and expenditure. When government borrows money and spends, government has more money than it should have, and therefore it's able to spend more, but that is borrowed money. When fiscal deficit goes out of control, when government borrows more money and spends more money, it creates demand, and that demand fuels inflation. Now what happened in 2010, 2011 and the first part of 2012 is our government consciously decided, because of the worldwide slowdown, our government consciously decided that we will borrow more and spend more so that growth is not affected. Now today, looking back, we can come to the conclusion it is a good policy. We can also come to the conclusion it is perhaps not so good a policy. The debate on that will never end. In benefit of hindsight, you can say you should not have borrowed so much, you should not have spent so much, you should not have created so much demand. That fueled inflation. But you can also argue, if you had not borrowed, if you had not spent, if you had not created demand, many more jobs would have been lost. Many more young men and women would have been without jobs. Therefore, you can argue both ways. The fact is that we borrowed more, we spent more, we created extra demand, and that demand fueled inflation. Now, after I returned to the Finance Ministry in August 2012, my first task was to contain the imbalance that has crept into the economy, contain inflation, which is why in my first statement, 6th of August, I said, we have to contain the fiscal deficit, we have to control the borrowing, we have to spend less until inflation comes down to manageable levels. And that is precisely what we have done in the last 1 year and 8 months. Inflation, WPI, wholesale price inflation, was 10% when I presented the budget in February 2013. This February 2013, wholesale price inflation has fallen to 5%. From 10%, wholesale price inflation has fallen to 5%. Now let us look at retail price inflation, because after all, most people are concerned with the prices at the retail level. Now retail price inflation at one point of time say for example, in the month of February 2013 was 12.06%, but now 1 year later it has come down to 7.24%. What we have done is contain demand. By containing demand, we have been able to control wholesale price inflation as well as retail price inflation. Now, what is causing inflation today? How do we contain the 7.24% and bring it further down? If you go item by item, you will be surprised to note that there are only 5 items which are driving inflation. The first is fruit and vegetable. The second is meat and fish. The third is eggs. The fourth is milk. And the fifth is condiments and spices. Now look at the basket. It is not wheat and rice which is driving inflation. What is driving inflation is, number one is vegetables and fruit. Number two is meat, fish. Number three is eggs. Number four is milk and milk products. Number five is condiments and spices. In fact, in a sense, we should be happy. We should be happy that more people in this country are eating more than mere roti or rice. They are eating vegetables, they are eating fruit, they are consuming milk, they are consuming milk products, they are consuming eggs, they are consuming meat, they are consuming fish. That is a good sign. At the same time, because people are demanding more of these goods and the supply is not equal to the demand, these prices are going up. So it's with a mixture of happiness and sadness, happiness and concern, that I have to tell you that what is driving inflation today is these items. The only way that we can contain inflation in these items is to increase supplies. We must produce more vegetables, more fruit, more meat, more milk and milk products, more fish, more eggs. That is the only way to contain inflation. In fact, we are producing more of them. What is not happening is, what is produced in the villages and rural areas is not coming to the market, because we do not have a solid, efficient supply system. We do not have good logistics. We do not have good transport. We do not have good storage. We do not have air-conditioned vehicles to transport them. In fact, a study shows that 30% of all vegetables, all fruit produced in rural India is consumed only within a radius of about 5 or 6 kilometers. It is no market at all, because market requires roads, market requires logistics, market requires supply chains. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to increase production, improve the supply chain, bring the products to the market, to the shop, to the mall, to the supermarket, to the hypermarkets, so that more goods are available and people who want them can buy and prices will not go up. See, in an advanced country, you go to a country like any European country, in America, the price of milk is the same throughout the country. The price of eggs is the same throughout the country. Why? Because they've got very solid supply chains and very large markets, so that the price stability is maintained throughout the country. You buy a carton of milk in New York, you buy a carton of milk in California, the price is the same. You buy an egg in Florida, you buy an egg in Boston, the price is the same because of the supply chain. This will take some time in India to build supply chains. These chains are being built. But let me assure you and conclude this part of my speech, by containing demand, by controlling the fiscal deficit, by containing demand, by spending less, we have brought down inflation. And if we continue on the same path for 1 or 2 years more, you will find that wholesale inflation comes down to about 3% and retail inflation will come down to below 5%, which is our goal. I'm absolutely confident that if the policies of our government, which we have adopted since 2012, are followed, for at least 1 or 2 years, wholesale price inflation will come down to below 3% and retail price inflation will come down to below 5%. Now let me turn to corruption. As long as there is greed, there will be corruption. There are greedy people in this world. Even very rich people are greedy. It's wrong to say that the poor are corrupt and the rich are not corrupt. In fact, if the poor indulge in corruption, it is petty corruption. It is only when the rich indulge in corruption, it is multi-crore, multi-thousand crore corruption. There is corruption in every country. Just take any of the magazines that are published in the West. Take Time magazine. Take The Economist. Just look at the first 3-4 pages. In every country, China, US, Europe, Singapore, countries which are considered to be high on the integrity index, in every country there is corruption. I was traveling via Singapore. I opened the newspaper in Singapore. One day, I was only there for 2 hours at the airport. I opened the Singapore Straits Times. What did I find? The assistant director in the Crimes Investigation Bureau was arrested for corruption of $1.6 million. Page 3. The protocol officer in the Singapore government's Ministry of External Affairs was arrested for embezzling $60,000. So it's wrong to assume that there is corruption only in India. I'm not saying this as an excuse. There is corruption worldwide, there is corruption in India. Corruption is driven by greed. There are people who are greedy. And greed finds ways as corruption. Now, how do we control corruption? We make laws, but it's not sufficient to make laws. The laws must be enforced. We must punish the corrupt. You cannot entirely stop corruption. As long as money is spent, money is distributed, money is going all over the country, there will be some people who are greedy who will indulge in corruption. The only way or the best way to control corruption is to punish anyone caught red-handed. Anyone who is found guilty of corruption must be punished severely. Now, courts lecture us. I don't mind. Judges lecture government every day. But let me say with humility, the failure to punish the corrupt is entirely the responsibility of our judicial system. It is our judicial system that has failed to punish the corrupt. Corruption cases drag on for 20 years or 30 years. You take disciplinary action against a government servant, it takes 10 years by the time you can find him guilty and you punish him, and finally the court will set it aside on some technical ground. I'll give you an example. A charge sheet is drafted against a government servant. The file is put up to the minister. The file is put up saying, these are the prima facie inquiry. Approval is sought for initiating disciplinary action and framing charges against the government servant. The minister signs. Ministers have always signed such files for the last 50 years. The actual charge sheet is actually drawn up by the secretary, additional secretary, joint secretary or deputy secretary. The charge sheet is issued. Inquiry takes place. The man is found guilty. Now, last year, the Supreme Court said all the cases the inquiry is bad. Why? The minister did not draw up the charge sheet. Now, how can a minister sit and draw up a charge sheet? What are officers for? The minister should approve the charge sheet. So all the cases in which we found people guilty have been set aside and we have to start all over again. The ministers approved the issue of a charge sheet. The minister has approved the initiation of disciplinary proceedings. The actual charge sheet has been drawn up by the officer, a senior officer, with approval of the Secretary to Government. But the court said no, the minister must approve the charge sheet. If the minister does not approve the charge sheet, the entire inquiry is bad. Now all the cases have been set aside, we are starting all over again. Criminal courts take 10 years to punish somebody who is guilty. I know of a chief minister against whom a case was filed for assets disproportionate to known source of income in the year 1997. The case is going on from 1997 to 2014. 4 elections have taken place after that. Therefore, unless we punish the guilty, there is no point making new laws, more laws, stricter laws. So that is one way to control corruption. The other way to control corruption is to eliminate discretion. Use technology. Use transparency. Use openness in government so that you reduce corruption. For example, our government has introduced e-procurement, e-bidding. There's no corruption. For example, the telecom spectrum was auctioned. There's no corruption because the whole thing is a technology-driven process where everybody knows who's bidding for what, and it's completely electronic. E-procurement. You want to buy stationery, you want to buy furniture, you want to buy something, put out a bid on a website, everybody bids openly on a website, so nobody can hide anything. It's completely e-procurement. So using technology, increasing transparency is one way to reduce corruption. The third way is to eliminate discretion. So today, money is transferred to many, many causes. For example, student scholarship, pre-metric, post-metric, college scholarship, SC/ST scholarships, OBC scholarships, scholarship for girl children is transferred. Money is transferred to ASHA. Money is transferred for old age pension. Money is transferred to widow's pension. Money is transferred to pregnant women before and after childbirth. What happens? When scholarships are given, does the scholarship go to the student? Because the money goes to the state government gives it to the district government, the district administration gives it to the college principal. By the time the money goes to the student, one, the full money does not go to him, or it comes to him 6 months late. We had a college in Maharashtra where Government of India was giving scholarships. They gave a list of students who were eligible for scholarship. It was found that 80% of the students in the list did not exist at all. They were ghost students. Just like your muster roll in the corporation, the college had a bogus roll of students. Just a list of names with some invented family name, mother's name, father's name, date of birth, some course. He was running a college with 20 students but collecting scholarship for 100 students. 80 students did not exist at all. That is why we introduced a direct benefit transfer. Aapka paisa, aapka haath. The money will go electronically directly to the bank account of the student. When it goes directly to the bank account, you bypass the state government, you bypass the district administration, you bypass the postman, you bypass the principal, you bypass the college cashier, the money goes directly to the bank account. So the ways to control corruption is technology and transparency, reducing or eliminating discretion, and punishing swiftly. That is the key. Punishment must be meted out within 6 months to 1 year. If you find a person corrupt, punish him in 6 months to 1 year. I can give you cases where a man is caught red-handed. The CBI catches a man actually receiving money through a trap. They apply the powder on the currency note. You know about it. So if you take that money, the powder will stick to your hand. Then you use some solution, it will turn yellow color or some color. So you know he has taken the money. CBI has caught people giving money, taking money. That case should be punished in 3 days. Why should that case take more than 3 days? You file the charge sheet the next day. The trial court must hear it one day. Ask him, what have you got to say in defense? Produce your witness and deliver punishment. All right, 3 days is too short. Take 3 months to deliver judgment. I know of cases where it has taken 30 years and the judgment has not been delivered in a trap case. So I think it's very, very important that we understand the phenomenon of corruption. Corruption is driven by greed. Corruption is not driven by need. Sometimes very poor people, need makes them do a corrupt act. But mostly corruption is driven by greed. The way to control corruption is to increase and improve technology and transparency, reduce or eliminate discretion, and above all, punish swiftly, quickly, punish those who are being caught as corrupt. I think I'll stop here so that we will have at least 10 minutes of questions. Hello. Sir, hello. Some questions for you on Twitter, sir. Twitter.
मैं आप लोगों को ये बताना चाहता हूं कि वाईफाई है यहाँ पर पूरे हॉल में, हैशटैग उड़ान के तौर पे आप ट्वीट कर सकते हो और ऑनलाइन आप फेसबुक ट्विटर पे जो भी आपको यहाँ पर बैठे अपडेट देना चाहते हो कर सकते हैं प्लीज. We have received some questions on Twitter online. Sir, please.
I thought I explained how inflation can be controlled. Inflation can be controlled only by reducing demand or by increasing supply. Increasing supply takes a few years or a few months. Containing demand is easier by controlling expenditure, which is precisely what we have done in the last 18 months, and we have brought down wholesale inflation from 10% to 5% and retail inflation from 12% to 7.24%. See, prices rise, I'm not denying that. In any developing country, prices must rise a little. You cannot have deflation in a developing country. Look at Japan. For 20 years, the Japanese economy was in a state of stagnation. They are a rich country, they don't mind. Their per capita income is very high, therefore the incomes don't rise, they don't mind. But they want inflation to be zero. Today, what is Japan's policy? Japan's policy is to reflate the economy. They want inflation at 2%. That is the only way you can grow. But you cannot have high inflation. Now, why do prices rise? Now, let me list a few reasons. Look at different compartments. Some prices rise because we have no control over it. Please understand this. You must explain it to people in your own language. Some prices rise because no government, and I challenge any government that will come after us, no government has control over those prices. Like what? Crude oil. What control do we have over crude oil prices? Crude oil prices are fixed by Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, Iran, Russia, US, Norway. These are the countries which fix crude oil prices. We have no control. If crude oil prices rise, petrol price will go up, kerosene price will go up, diesel price will go up. We have no control at all. I look at the television only for one thing. Every morning I switch on the television to see what is the crude oil price. Crude oil price today is $117 a barrel. At one point of time, it was $100 a barrel. 4 years ago, it touched $148 a barrel. Today, I think it is about $117 a barrel. If crude oil price comes down, price of petrol and diesel will come down. If crude oil price goes up, price of petrol and diesel will go up. Therefore, we must understand that some prices are not under our control at all. That is point one. Second, some prices will rise because we take conscious decisions. And let me explain. Do you want to give more MSP for wheat? Yes or no? Do you want to give higher minimum support price for wheat? Translated to wheat. Do you want to give higher minimum support price for wheat? Wheat.
सर ये कहना चाहते हैं कि हायर मिनिमम प्राइस जो वीट के लिए है, आप लोग सपोर्ट करते हो क्या उसको?
Do you want to give higher minimum support price for paddy? Do you want to give higher minimum support for sugarcane? Now, if you say yes to all that, if wheat prices increase, obviously Maida Suji price will increase. If paddy price increase, rice price will increase. If sugarcane price increases, sugar price will increase. You can't say, I will give higher price for wheat, paddy and sugarcane, but rice, wheat and sugar prices must come down. The only way to keep it down is by subsidy.
सर ये कहना चाहते हैं कि किसानों को जो प्राइस मिल रही है वो कम मिलनी चाहिए, ज्यादा मिलनी चाहिए.
So that is,
हाँ? तो उससे फायदा होगा या नुकसान होगा? अगर किसानों को ज्यादा प्राइस देंगे हम.
The second thing is, some prices rise because we want to help the farmers. we want farmers to have better prices. So some prices rise because of conscious decision. For example, MSP 10 years ago and MSP today. Just compare MSP 10 years ago and MSP today. We have increased the price. We have doubled the MSP. We have doubled the MSP for wheat and paddy. I know for paddy, it used to be about 525 rupees a quintal. Today we are giving 1,050 rupees or so per quintal. We have doubled the price for wheat and paddy, which is the second reason. The third reason why some prices increase, as I said, is supply and demand. If supply is less and demand is more, prices will increase. And I've already explained it at great length. The answer is either to increase supply or to contain demand, which is what we are doing. These are the reasons why prices increase in any developing economy. Okay. Do you want to answer that question or what you got? Okay.
Question. Good afternoon, sir. I'm national delegate in NSUI. Sir, recently the thing happened in the submarine, like Sindhu Ratna, 2 officers been dead, declared dead, 2 casualties happened. I have lost one, my brother, Lieutenant Commander Kapish Muwal. There were some difficulties that the finance is not sanctioned. We are lacking with so much of submarines that at present we require 25 to protect our nation. But still there are only 13 submarines. And before this, again the missed casualties happened, around 18 casualties happened in Sindhu Raksha submarine. Why our government is not focusing on financing on our securities? I have recently lost my brother, Lieutenant Commander Kapish Muwal. Why? The ships are going for refits, they have to change batteries from one ship and they go for the another batteries. They are lacking with such a huge amount of finance that why our governments are not sanctioning money for our security, for our safety, why such casualties are going on?
First, let me offer you my sincere condolences on your loss. We feel your pain, we feel your loss. We convey our deepest sympathies to you and your family, and we hope you will find the courage and the strength to bear this loss. I offer you my sincere condolences. As far as defense expenditure is concerned, I think it is not correct to say that enough money is not being provided. There is no such thing as enough. Our requirements are so large. We require money for defense, we require money for Manrega, we require money for old age pension, we require money for scholarships, we require money for running the civilian government, paying salaries and wages. It's a question of allocating money. And for defense, believe me, I have been finance minister for long. We have provided the maximum amount that we can afford and a little more. For example, this year, if I remember, the total defense budget is about 2,25,000 crore rupees. That's a lot of money. If you ask me, should I provide more? Answer is yes. But then the Minister of Rural Development will come and tell me, you're giving only 30,000 crore to Manrega, give me more. Don't I deserve more? The answer is yes. HRD will come and tell me, I want to open 54 Kendriya Vidyalayas, you're not giving me enough money, give me more. Don't I deserve more? The answer is yes. So what I want you to understand is, while each demand is a genuine demand, the demand of defense, the demand of rural development, the demand of HRD, these are genuine claims, genuine demands. We have to allocate only the money that we have and the money that we borrow. We are already borrowing about 5.5 lakh crore a year. So that is what we allocate. Therefore, we do our very best to allocate as much as we can for defense. The second question that you asked, or implied in your question, is more important. How is that money spent? If 2,25,000 crore is allotted to defense, how is it spent? Should it be spent on maintenance? Should it be spent on acquiring new equipment? Should it be spent on the Air Force? Should it be spent on the Navy? Should it be spent on the Army? Should it be spent on training? Should it be spent on raising a new battalion? These are questions which are decided by very senior officers of the Army, Navy and Air Force. I am sincerely sorry, and I say this with responsibility, I am sincerely sorry that at some point of time the maintenance of the submarine appears to be neglected. Only an inquiry will prove the fact. From what reports I've read, appears to be neglected. There seems to have been some problem with the battery that led to the fire, and 2 precious lives were lost. But I sincerely hope that the defense forces will learn a lesson and make sure that the money allotted to them is spent more wisely and more efficiently on essential matters. Now I can give you a number from 0 to 1,76,000 crore. Every number will be wrong, and I'll tell you why every number is wrong. Take coal. It is only when coal is mined and sold that somebody makes a profit. Right or wrong? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
Now coal mines are allotted, I agree. Let me assume that coal mine allotted to him was right, coal mine allotted to him was wrong, coal mine allotted to him was wrong. Let me assume. 2 out of 3 allocations were wrong. Let me assume so. He was allotted rightly. He took the coal, he mined it, he made a profit. Nothing wrong with that, isn't it? He was allotted wrongly. He was allotted wrongly. If both of them did not mine the coal was never taken out, never sold, the allotment was wrong. But where is the loss? Do I make myself clear? The allotment was wrong. I say so. The allotment was wrong. Allotting to whom was wrong? Allotting to whom was wrong? Those who allotted must be punished. They must also be punished. But where is the loss to the country? The coal is still there in Mother Earth. Most of the mines that were allotted have not been mined at all. For example, I know one case where the Tata came and told me he has been allotted a mine and that allocation has been held to be irregular or illegal or whatever. That allocation will be cancelled. Let it be cancelled. He says, this mine is in a forest. My officers cannot even go into the forest to locate the mine. Where is the question of mining it or bringing out the coal or making any profit? The mine is still there, the coal is still there. But don't go by these numbers. The real numbers are only in that mine which was allotted wrongly, where mining has taken place, where the coal was sold at a price and he made a profit, only that is a loss to the government. The rest is not a loss, it is all what I call the CAG loss. That is a notional loss. These are just calculated losses. Similarly in spectrum, yes, spectrum is allotted. I am not denying it. Spectrum has been allotted in the same manner since 1993. Since 1993, we had the Congress government of Mr. Narasimha Rao, we had the United Front government of Deva Gowda, United Front government of Gujarat, then we had the Vajpayee government for 1 year and then for 5 years, and then we had the UPA government. The same method was allotted. Everybody was given a license for that. What is the amount? 1,350 crore or something like that. Everybody got it at the same rate. Now they said, the judgment, this is wrong. Allocations made on this basis was wrong. They didn't cancel all the done in 93, forget it, allocations were wrong. So we cancelled it. We have auctioned it now. We have auctioned it and recovered the money. The money has come in auction. Therefore, wait, please remember that allocation is not wrong. The charge is really in allocating
the allegation. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because the court has to hold it guilty. The charge is in allocating first come, first serve. The department should have allocated strictly in accordance with first come, first serve, but they made some irregularities and pushed somebody up and pulled somebody down and made a wrong allocation. Those are mistakes, those are illegal acts. People will be punished. A case is going on. If people are found guilty, they'll be punished. But to assume that everything is a loss is simply calculation, and I don't think you should believe these calculations. There is some loss. There is some loss when somebody to whom it is illegally allocated makes a profit out of it. There is indeed a loss. A good question. Onion prices. When onion prices go to 100 rupees, all the consumers complain. When onion prices go down to 10 rupees, all the onion farmers complain. Now what is the government to do? This is bound to happen. There are two kinds of onions. One onion which comes in one season can be stored for 8 to 9 months. Another onion which comes in the other season cannot be stored. It has to be immediately sold. Anybody who is coming from Maharashtra will know this. There are two kinds of onions. So what happens is, when there's a bumper crop in that long season onion, people store it and then sell it. Now when the crop fails, prices go up because supply is less than demand. Prices go up. Please remember what I told you first. Supply and demand decide prices. When supply of onions is less, but people are demanding onions, prices will go up. But when there's a bumper crop and onions come into the market in large quantity, the demand is the same, prices crash. When prices crash, the farmer complains. When prices rise, the consumer complains. These are seasonal variations. No government can control onion prices. In fact, central government has very little to do in controlling onion prices. It is the state government which must procure the onions, store it and sell it. In fact, last year, when onion prices went up or going up, the Department of Consumer Affairs, Professor Thomas's department, wrote to every state government saying, I am willing to buy onions and store it under NAFED. Will you procure onions in your... Do you want us to procure onions? Do you want us to store the onions? Only one government replied. No government, no state government replied. Please remember, most of these responsibilities are with state government. Essential Commodities Act is with state government. Prevention of black marketing, hoarding and profit sharing act is state government. Detention, preventive detention is with state government. State governments don't take any action. When prices go up, they blame the government of India. When prices fall, they blame the government of India. And the state government has no responsibility. I want to ask them, why are you a state government? Quit and go. Why are you sitting there in that chair? If you have no responsibility, why are you sitting in that chair?
Thank you very much. Good luck to you. All the best to you.